Okay, and I'm also going to see if we can live on Facebook. Let's see if we can do that too.
Okay, let's see why. Okay, I'm doing the share screen now.
Okay, 1 second. Let me just go back to this.
Should I stop share screen or just leave it up?
No, you're okay. I just want to go to record and then we can start. Okay, you are, yes, we're preparing to go live. You're okay. You can start anytime.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm your host, Jacqueline Goldstein, curator of the Jewish Museum of Florida. And welcome to today's episode of Thursdays at 3. Today we're going to be talking with artist, teacher, and also STEAM, local community STEAM activist and teacher in that as well, Karla Kantorovich. Karla, welcome.
Hello, thank you. Thanks for having me, a pleasure. And thanks for everybody that joined.
Wonderful. Karla is Miami in our community. She is local, but Karla, you were born in Mexico and you lived there until 30 years old, right?
Yes, I was born and raised in Mexico.
Tell me what it was like growing up in Mexico first.
I really, like, Mexico is deep in my heart. Like, I really love my country. It was always an issue for me, the inequality of the country. Like, it's like so much duality. Like, in a sense, I saw so much richness in the culture, in the food and the music. But in the other hand, it was so much poverty. Like, half of the population lives in poverty and 10% in extreme poverty. So it was a duality that really bothered me so much. And I still, like, would, in a way, would like to give back to Mexico, to somehow being able in my little, in any way that I can, to really help people in Mexico.
Sounds amazing. I know you had told me once your first art teacher said you had to learn all the rules before you can break them, which I thought was a great quote. So what started your passion with art? I know you didn't start out with art, but first of all, when was that? How old are you and when did it start for you?
Since I was little, my parents really very much like painting and art, and they had like lots of, like, not original paintings, but like posters of Picasso and Matisse and like all the, expressionist artists and European, I would say. And since I was little, I used to just grab my Prismacolor and copy them. I have all these like little copies of the masters, I would say. And I just loved working with my hands. Whatever material I had, I just needed to do something with my hands. Although I didn't thought about pursuing it as a career. Like, my parents were very traditional, and it wasn't even in my spectrum of like really studying fine art. So actually I started studying business administration. And I think you sometimes in life need to know what you don't want to know what you do. So half the way there, I knew it was really not my path. I wanted to study education after that. And but in the middle of the way, I started like taking some classes, and I started doing some like still life objects, and that was it. I just started, and I knew I needed to go there. And in Mexico, I had very good opportunity to have very nice mentors. And this was my teacher that he really showed me so much, and it has been like such a great foundation for my career. He was very angry of how nowadays they don't teach sometimes the basics, like the academy. like they not in every country they teach this anymore, you know. Like in Mexico, he was a teacher also in Mexico, and he said that people don't care about like the structure and perspective and composition, and they want to just like right away go to expressionism, and so he was like very thorough that you really need to know the rules in order to really break them. So very academic, like drawing, perspective, still life drawings. I did a lot of that, which I enjoyed immensely. Yes.
This one right here is one of your earlier works. You started out with pencil drawing and pen and ink.
Yes, yes. He was like super traditional first pen, well, pencil, pen, pastels, acrylic, more or less that was like the transition. And a lot of pencil, and he was like very strict in the sense that it needs to be from still life. Like if you copy from a photograph, you are already copying from something that it's 2-dimension to something that it's also 2-dimension. So when you have a still life object being like a space like this or a face, you're like abstracting something that's it's 3D into 2D. So that exercise is really a very important learning experience as in space and perspective. So yes, I did a lot of that.
Is this a cathedral, the interior of a cathedral in Mexico?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And I was kind of hours there.
All right.
So it was, I love that experience. If faces is my thing, I started doing portraits. And this was from a photograph though. And, but this was more like for me exploring a new material. So this was more about learning like the contrast and the light and shadow. It was more of an exercise for that. And I did a few like that. And I really love like the expression. I almost didn't get into the body. Like I really just love the portraits because of the expression. Yes.
I mean, the lighting is unbelievable. How you really captured the light on his face and the shadow.
Yes, yes, the light. I mean, it's really everything in painting. It's just like a juggling between having the balance of light and darkness. It's like you don't see the light if you don't have the darkness. So you need to just balance that. And the drawing, I think it's a very important foundation for any fine artist. Even if you're not gonna use it later in your life, to be able to have like a foundation in drawing, I think it's really important.
I mean, it obviously you were just, it was a natural for you to just start going into artwork. I mean, sketching, it's really just a natural look. So now you moved into color, I see.
Yes, exactly.
How old were you when the self-portrait was made?
Probably 23, I would say.
Okay.
So yes, more than 20 years ago. And it's very common sometimes for artists to do a self-portrait because it's like instead of paying a model, you just have yourself. So I did I think I have 3 portraits, and you just use a mirror, and yes, you have your still life model there. So it's just, again, like a learning experience to be able to to learn the light, the shadow, and how to really like bring the portrait to life. So yes, once I started with color, I continue the path with color, I think. After this one, I think I started doing with acrylic. The next step after this was the acrylic.
So this is acrylic. So what did you capture in your self-portrait? What do you see of yourself that's coming out? I know it's looking in the mirror, but do you feel like you pulled any emotion to show on the painting?
Just reflecting, I guess, like searching, I would say.
Searching.
Yes, I think I was on a search, I guess. But in a sense, I'm calm, I'm calm. It's like okay, we're in this path, we're starting, we're searching. That's, I think, what I see there.
Did you know at that time that art was the direction you were going in?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, I didn't end up studying I was going to start the master in education, but then I fully dived into art, and that was it. Yes.
Good choice.
Yes. Thank you.
So I know you're a mixed media artist and you work
Yes.
with a lot of different medium. So we just went through pencil and charcoal and acrylics. What are we looking at here? I mean, this is one of the things that really drew me to you as an artist, was just this, profound usage of multimedia.
I
Looked
really,
at yours was different. So what are we looking at here?
I really love like the materials, the textures. I need to like feel the material, and the texture that it has, it's because it's in roofing paper. You know, the roofing paper, the one that you use for the roof. Like I used to get a lot of materials from hardware stores. Like instead of like art stores, I would go to hardware stores just because it was just easier for me to get like more material for less money. And it's just a drawing, pastels, charcoal on roofing paper. So that texture that you see, it's because of it's just a very thick paper.
And why did you choose roofing paper? Was it just an accident, or you wanted it for a certain reason?
No. Honestly, all the materials I use, it's usually just because of their like aesthetically. You know, it's like I just like the look of it, not because it really means anything to me. Like the roofing paper is just more like the quality. You know, like the heaviness in that moment was like the heaviness of the paper.
Right, and the fabric, the feeling. Who is this portrait of?
That's it's not nobody in specific. It was like some. This is also from a photograph, actually.
Okay.
And yes, it's nobody in specific. It's something I found. But oh my God, the expression is just talking to me. You know, like
Right.
yes. So.
Searching also. Now, what are we looking at here? This looks like a mix of drawing and painting and different materials.
So yes, here I started, it was like charcoal and acrylic. And here I started to use like a lot of texture also. And these are big pieces, like the one on, like this is big, but the one in the right, you know that it has like a different panels. I started to do like a lot of triptychs and polyptychs because at that moment, I really wanted to work big for some reason. And so I use different panels. And I don't know, I just like these faces of like, I would say, I don't know, I see so much like kindness in those faces. I think it's like, that's what I needed to express at that moment. And so this is just like acrylic mainly and charcoal for the drawing on the right. And as well on the left, yes. This is a still life. The one in the left is easy. It was in one of the classes, and it's models. We had like 2 models once, so that was a still life. Yes.
The one on the right almost looks like a Da Vinci sketch. Who would you say who you're inspired by as far as artists? Where did you take your inspiration from?
At the beginning, yes.
You see what I'm saying about that Da Vinci drawing? It's kind of...
No, absolutely. I mean, at the beginning, the Da Vinci was like my Bible. I had like this very thick book. You know, I think at really copying from the masters is like the best teaching you can ever have. You know, like it's like they already have solved a problem. You know, so you're like just learning from them. So yes, I used to copy a lot from like Da Vinci and also Tamayo, Rufino Tamayo. He is a very important Mexican artist. He does this kind of like very like stereotypical like figures, but also the texture and the color. And I would say like all my colors, I think I really learned from that book, like the way he combined the colors. And I just would learn from books. So mainly I would say at the beginning was Da Vinci and Tamayo. Yes.
So these two super famous artists from Mexico that everybody thinks of, Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera, did you have draw any inspiration from them? I mean, that's when people think of Mexican artists right away.
Exactly, that's like
Rivera
the
and
most
Frida Kahlo,
iconic, you know. I really admired very much Frida. Like, you know, I really knew about her life, and I admire like how brave she was and how she was like super authentic and really like working from the heart. And I think as far as I mean, that was what I learned from her the most, you know, her authenticity and her braveness, you know, like and passion. I mean, she wouldn't stop no matter what. I'm gonna paint like from my bed and nothing is gonna stop me, you know.
Right.
But not in the way that, not aesthetically, you know, it wasn't my aesthetic.
Right.
So it's like I never even like try to learn anything like to copy something from her. But of course I admire her immensely. Yes.
Yes.
Also still life, that was in one of my classes, and just like the subtlety of the figure, you know, like just like some here I started to abstract, you know, like every time I started to abstract more. Like at the beginning I need to have it all, and then I started to abstract and to really just leave the lines that were necessary, you know, like less and less of a shape, less and less of a form. And probably this, no, yeah, yes, probably this one was one of the last one that I used, like the whole figure of the body. But for me, it was more important, like I don't know if you can appreciate here in the photo, like I was really looking for like depth, and I use a lot of, used to love like monochromatic to really be able to give like an atmosphere. So with the same hues, with the same palette, to be able to give an atmosphere, that was what was more challenging, or what was my intention with this painting.
Why the red?
At that moment, I just needed the red, you know. It was like strength, I would say. I think it denotes like passion and strength. I think that's what meant to me at the moment. I just needed it, you know. And yellows, also yellows. Ochre is still my favorite color ever. And but at that moment, the red was really appealing to me also.
I feel like you almost deconstructed the face. Was that on purpose?
Yes.
Okay, why?
Yes. I want to have like her general feeling, you know, and not really to get stuck with like anything. It was the feeling of it was more important than the details.
The general feeling of the people.
The general feeling, like the essence of her.
Okay, versus just a specific model. You're taking the essence of the model, the essence of the figure, I should say.
Exactly.
Wow. You can see also all the emotion and the swirling colors really creating this whole, I mean, it's almost mysterious looking. We get the figure, but you know, it's really, there's so much emotion happening there because of the color. Was this all acrylic? Looks like looks even like charcoal.
Acrylic and charcoal. I always like to do the drawing in charcoal, and then I incorporate the paint almost at the same time. But I like the drawing to really look to be like from feeling, and I work better if it's like directly with the charcoal.
So you literally have your charcoal here and your paints here, and you're moving back and forth between the two of them?
back and forward. Yes,
Wow.
I'm a super messy artist. I do like a super mess, and I like when I'm like in the moment, in the zone, I really don't care what's happening outside. So yeah, I don't need to do a cleanup after when I'm finished. But when I'm in the process, I need to have like all the materials there. I also love to work with pigments.
Mhm.
It's like the pure pigments from the earth, and you just like solve it like either with water to do like a watercolor or acrylic or temp, or if you would use oil, you would have an oil painting, an oil painting. So the pigments, I really also love to work until now with those, the pure
What,
pigments.
what would turn you from, working on the back, for example, with charcoal to pull up the light? What would cause you to turn right into acrylic? What would make you think, I got to go into acrylic with this? Is it just spur of the moment? Nothing can.
It's really very unconscious, very, I'm just responding what is happening. It's not that okay, but then I'm gonna put light here and I'm gonna put shadow here. It doesn't work that way for me at all. I do have like some lines or the drawing that I want to do, and I know it's gonna be red, and that's as far as I know. Everything else that happened, it really happened in the moment. I would say I'm responding to what's happened. So one brush stroke bring me to the other. So then I see light like in some places, then I need to balance it. So it's, I think I would say it's really like an unconscious intuitive process for me.
It's really exciting, really exciting. So this is your grandmother. I know that your grandparents were from Polish and Russian descent.
Yes,
So
yes.
what can
And
you
she's
tell
my
us about your
grandmother,
mother?
and she was like a very important, influential person in my life. There is no one day that passed by that I don't remember her. I spoke Yiddish with her, and I love Yiddish, and I use like some sentences because I feel they are so full of wisdom. Like in one word, you're saying so much. So I'm always like, as my Baba used to say, as my Baba used to say, like all my friends, everybody knows that, oh, as my Baba used to say. And I just saw her like a fountain of wisdom, you know. I love to be near her, and she was a really wise lady. It was a hard life. She had such a hard life. She moved to Mexico 1938. She was 15 years old, and she was sent to Mexico by herself. They didn't have enough. She was the oldest, and they sent her in 1938, just right before like the Nazis invaded Poland, and they didn't have enough money to send them all, so they sent her just because she was so old. I mean, imagine 15 years old, not speaking a word of Spanish, and with the promise that everybody would follow, and nobody ever did. Nobody ever did. She suffered in silence. She was never able to speak about it, never. So like, I don't know any of the details. I have a few photographs of her and her family in Poland, but it was like unspoken. You weren't able to speak about it. And I think my mother even didn't know, you know? Like I know some of my uncles started like having the names of her relatives, but it's something that she would never, I didn't even try to ask, because it's like she wouldn't want to go there. So yes, she
Met
really
your
supported
grandfather in
silence.
Mexico?
Excuse me?
She met your grandfather in Mexico?
Yes, right away she got married and she got 6 kids. So you know that kept her busy, but I feel, you know, there like from the Second World War, you see like two different contrasts, no? The duality, the people that are like really happy they survived and they are out there and they're like trying to spread the word and sharing their story. And she, on the other hand, she was kind of like, why me? Like, why? I don't understand why me? Why did I survive? So I think she had like a lot of pain of why was she the one that survived? Why her? I think she didn't like really made amends with that. Instead, that's the way God wanted it to be, for sure. But I think she didn't really make amends with that part. That's why she just had it hidden in herself. Yes.
It's amazing. You're very lucky to have spent time with her. It's very powerful.
Yes, yes. She didn't live with us, but in the summers we had a place that we would go, and she was my roommate. So I really got to spend a lot of time with her. And yes, she passed away like 5 years ago, but I know she's with me always.
Good. It's beautiful. Okay. Well, can you tell me, I know that you're basically is this the scene now where your color goes down to monochromatic?
This is when the color starts fading away, and we started like with like dark colors, but like imagine this is like phase 1, and I got into stage, I would say stage 1, and then I got into stage like 4, I would say. It was like all of a sudden it was just like this it has color. I mean, it has purple and a little bit of orange. No, it became like dark and gray and dark and gray, and that's what came out of me, nothing else.
So what was causing this change spiritually?
So my parents, my father first, he got ill, he got cancer, and so this is the beginning of it. This is just like the sad lady, and also, it's like the tear, and it's like the beginning of the illness.
Okay.
And then whatever else I did, it was black and gray, and it was like really depressing. But nothing else would come out of me, to the point that like before I was selling my stuff in a gallery, and all the other examples that you saw before, I was selling in a gallery, and then all of a sudden I started bringing this, and she would say, you know what, I'm really sorry, I don't know what's happening with you, but we cannot show this because people are already like, they have you like in one concept, and this is just different and in a different direction, and we cannot show this. And that's the only, I mean, I couldn't do anything else, like don't ask me for a yellow and don't ask me for a red, and I just couldn't. So then my father, he passed away, and then right away my mother got ill, also cancer. And they were this kind of couple that they were like really close, and they couldn't be one without the other. So like it was in 3 years that they both passed away. So I just couldn't do anything that wasn't gray and black, and it took me years. Honestly, for a few years I just stopped, because I really didn't like what was coming out of me, and it was depressing, and I felt people are gonna, it's funny because I'm gonna tell you a funny story. So somebody did want one of my paintings, which I don't have pictures because I end up destroying them all. But okay, so this was like a really big, very dark, and it had like a character that was really depressing. But she was like, you know what, it's so much expression, I really want it, and she bought it from me. And she put it in the living room, in her living room. And then all of a sudden I received a call, and she's like, I'm really sorry, but somebody from Feng Shui came, and she told me that, this is really not good for me to have in the living room. Could you be able to change it for something else? And I'm like, okay. And so I brought it back, and eventually it took me years to give her something else that was colorful. But so I just stopped. Like for years, it was like probably 3-4 years that I was in a complete pause.
Wow.
Yes.
So spirituality plays a huge role in your artwork. I mean,
yes, I really feel like it's like, it's in the moment, it's what I'm expressing, and it's like, I just cannot do something that it's even if it's for commercial purpose and they want red, I just cannot do it. So yes, that's the story of this.
The color comes back.
Color comes back, thank God. I moved to San Diego, and as I told you, I stopped with my career completely. And I didn't even, I said, you know what, I'm gonna dedicate myself to something else. And then a friend of mine told me, you know what, I know you were a teacher in Mexico. Please, can you teach my nephew? And I hesitate. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. And then she insisted, of course, and I started teaching him, and I came back right away to my path. And yes, I rented a studio and I started again. And the color came back. So I'm really, like when I saw like the reds and the yellows, I'm like, okay, perfect, healing is coming into place. And I was really happy for my process. I got into yoga, meditation. I went to India to an ashram, and I studied for like a yoga. I'm certified actually as a yoga teacher, and I studied Kabbalah. And it was like a healing process for me. Yes.
Absolutely. I can see that, the color. And I mean, this is another example of how much your inner spirituality has such an effect on your work. And so the move to San Diego obviously had a profound effect on you.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it was easy for me to leave just because actually I left after my mother passed away, and then it was easier in that sense. But my family still, all my siblings are there. So, and my friends of all my life. So of course it was like really hard, but in a sense, I really needed like a new start, I really needed a new beginning.
Okay. Makes sense.
So yes, I guess I got it.
So exploring the accidental, what are we looking at?
The accidental, okay. So in all my studies of like yoga, meditation, Kabbalah, I always really like intuitive, I kind of knew that there is this like underlying unity, this underlying like system, that wisdom that exists underlying everything. But then like studying and Benol Mendelbrot, I don't know if you're familiar, it's a mathematician, that he studied the uncontrolled elements. So with his theory of fractal geometry, he said that there is no randomness whatsoever in like the borders of a city, the roughness of the mountains, even the veins of the leaf. There is no randomness whatsoever. It's like a pattern that can be explained by a mathematical formula. So it's at that moment in like my spiritual path, it was like so reassuring, like to know that there is really nothing random. So that we're really here for a reason. It's like mainly in my life, I've been trying to answer two questions, like what is really the meaning of life, and if there is something else to the physical existence that we perceive. So this started to give me like really answers that gave me like a lot of peace. So knowing that there is no randomness was really helpful for me. And I started like doing, yes, the accidental to work. From here I started like doing the collage. Like all of a sudden, like doing pieces from fragments became important for me. You know, the idea of the whole is really made of like fragments that you sometimes, like we really don't see the whole picture, you know, like we're here in life and it's like a puzzle and we just see pieces and we really need to manage with whatever we have in hand. But like
are these satellite images that we're looking at?
Yes, yes,
okay.
Yes, that's satellite, and that's just like references that I used. Mm-hmm. But the idea of fragments, it was just very important for me for this reason, no? This is like a puzzle and we're just like juggling and with these pieces, but there is like this whole and this unity like behind. that I was exploring. So I started doing like a lot of paintings, you know, like in a more accidental way. Anyway, my process was really intuitive. So I really just was kind of doing some more accidental work. And it's funny because it's like the accident is really not an accident, because it's like, oh, this part is ruined, but then I needed to respond to that. And then something else better than that was gonna come. Like always, it's like, we think it's an accident, but really sometimes life shows us something that we don't like at that moment, and only with time we understand that it took us to a better place. But it's just time. So
What are we seeing here? You're more abstracting the work now?
yes,
Okay.
it became every time more and more abstract. Like I really needed like to feel the material. The painting, it started to become like very like flat to me. I like really needed to go out of the flatness of the canvas, and I started like cutting. So I used to paint, and then I would cut the pieces of painting canvas and trying to compose something out of it. But I needed like more dimensionality, more of a feel. And then I started using sewing like as a metaphor, like I have thread here. And I started to sew different kind of pieces as a way of, the sewing was like the healing, and like a metaphor for me of healing and mending these broken pieces and trying to compose them to work as a unity.
So what is the medium in this piece? I see letters on that white on the bottom right.
Yes,
That's some kind of text written there.
yes. I started, I mean, maybe was the beginning. I started to using like text, a lot of text, not because of a specific meaning, more of like rewriting a story.
Okay.
Like this is a story, but it can be reassembled and we can say it a different way.
Is there a story in here that the text is going with?
No.
So it's just, and then what is the medium? Is this just acrylics or what? Was that
Yes.
text paper?
This is acrylics, and it became very earthy, and like the pigments and the colors are very earthy. So it's just mainly pigments and the thread to sew the pieces together, and acrylic.
The colors.
Yes.
So now you're working with collage. What are we seeing here?
I started literally going like to construction materials, maybe like where they have like trash of like disregarded construction materials.
When did you start with the collage? Not to interrupt. Where are we now?
That I think it's I started actually when I started my master's.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That was at FIU, the master's?
Yes, I started actually at UM and then I transferred to FIU.
Okay.
And yes, I started like playing a lot like with trash. I needed like the elements. It was just too flat, the paint for me, so I just needed like to be able like to touch the materials and to work with the materials. But I was fascinated of the idea of like just grabbing random pieces and trash and trying like to make a composition out of it, like with the idea of like I have to make this work, you know, with whatever I have in hand. I really need to balance it and to make it work, like kind of trying to really find balance in the unbalanced and juggling. And like balancing light and darkness. So all these were like kind of a challenge, like how can I make this into like an abstract paint that would work and you would maybe for a moment forget about that it's a piece of trash. You know, can you see really the whole of the composition and not the detail of this piece of trash? I was like kind of going there with that. And also like disregarded materials in the sense of like they had the passage of time, the story. I really love materials that have been places, that tell me a story. And all of these materials talk to me in a way.
It's amazing. So you put things together and your challenge is how can I make it work? I mean, it's that in itself is really so exciting. Challenging. So you just sit there and you bring a bunch of pieces together and you imagine and challenge yourself, how can I make this work?
Like this is kind of like, these were some exercises, and I used to go to Home Depot, and these are very big. So I needed like big cans of painting. So at that moment, I also wasn't very picky about what kind of paint. Always you went to Home Depot and they have these bottles of paint that nobody didn't want because of whatever. And those I grabbed, and because I wanted to be as random as possible, in the sense that with what I have, I need to make it work. And yes, that was my child. So that's why it's maybe like some random colors that maybe now I wouldn't have picked, you know. It's like, I don't know, I would have picked a more earthy palette, but this is what I had in hand, and I play around with that.
Is that plaster in the center one?
Yes. A lot of like heavy material, like at that time it was a lot of like materiality, you know, the heaviness. And as I told you, it's very intuitive, and I sometimes don't really know what I'm doing things until I really like question myself. So I was finding myself going to the hardware store every day. And all of a sudden I realized, oh, my father had a hardware store. Maybe I love hardware store because of that, you know? So I'm 2 years going to a hardware store every day. And then after 2 years, I realized, oh, maybe it's because it just connects me to my father, you know? So some relations like that at the moment, I'm not doing them consciously.
Do you put these on, you know, a stretched canvas or wood, or what are these whole compositions on?
Yes, these were canvas. These were canvas. In Mexico, I used to work with panels, ¿cómo se dice? Madera, with wood panels. And but it's like, it's funny because I got like heavier and heavier until now. The latest work you're gonna see, it's becoming lighter. But this is super heavy because it's the canvas plus the materials. It was really heavy to carry.
Right.
Yes.
So I know you've been in a lot of jury shows and have had some solo shows. So tell me about this national competition in New York. Are these your pieces that we're seeing? All of these pieces are yours?
No. Mine is the one that it's
blue and the yellow. Right?
Exactly. And yes, I used to enter these juried exhibitions because it's like, I was here as an international student. I couldn't really like sell my work officially. I didn't have like the permit to sell work. So I figured that if I enter like juried exhibitions, I would get into the game somehow and be able to show my work. And so I entered a lot of juried exhibitions, and this was juried by Dorothea Jogaburn. I don't remember exactly her name, but she like each competition is just juried by different, you know, she was an artist that I guess she really liked the aesthetic of my work, you know, of collaging and working with this kind of construction raw materials. So yes, it's like if you're selected for the competition, then you get selected and you have an exhibition. This was in a gallery in Chelsea, New York. So it was like pretty exciting for me to be able to be part of that.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine.
Yes.
And you're also doing photography?
Yes, the photography I always use like as a tool. I've never shown my photography, like I've never done an exhibition just in photography. I always use it like as a reference of the body of work I'm working at the moment. Like this specifically was like the Lost and Found series, where I was again exploring the accident and what is disregarded. And so the one in the left is a detail of a trash can container. And for me, it was just a perfect composition, you know, the yellow balances perfect with like the square in the white square. So trying again to see like color and composition despite being like a detail on a trash can. So I wanted like to go beyond what is apparent, you know, to try to find more like the hidden beauty, like beneath the apparent chaos that we see. And the one in the right is just like a bubble gum in a strain of a street in New York. And but for me, again, I see the circle, I see the lines, I see the color, and I'm like, oh my God, this is like a perfect abstract painting. So I don't know, if you really don't know what it is, maybe you wouldn't even imagine is that, you know? So I'm always like visually oriented to see like where is rusted, and like I love like the walls when they are like in decay. I see so much richness and experience in that. It's very appealing to me.
So you're not even thinking this is a drain. You're thinking literally of the composition of these lines.
And like, wow, this is amazing. Everybody stop, you know, everybody stop. And I start, you know, and then here I was with my family, and they're like, what are you kidding me? What are you taking pictures of? And I just all of a sudden get super excited because look, it's amazing. Like for me, it's like the different hues, you know, like when the environment touch the metals, like when the metals are touched by the environment, like the rust and the colors they produce, it's like really of a beauty that you cannot even emulate. Like actually for a few years I was emulating rust because I was obsessed with I like very much ochre. So the color that produced with rust, I was like working with materials to reproduce those kind of shades and colors that nature give us just by being there and by the passage of time. And I, as an artist, I want to reproduce their beauty because it's just amazing for me to see.
What is the process with these photographs? Are you blowing up the photograph and painting on it, or you know, putting it next to a canvas and using it as inspiration?
This is just, I get excited at the moment and I do the photograph. People have suggested me, why don't you traduce them into paintings? And I've tried, but the problem with me is that if, let's say the one in the right, if I want to do a painting out of it, then in the process becomes really boring to me because I really know what's gonna happen. You know, it's like, I feel I'm like painting by numbers, and then I know here is yellow and then here is red, and it's like I'm competing with an image and I have a reference that it has to look exactly like that. And that takes away of my process. Like in my process, I really need to be there and really like be surprised of what's happening. I don't know if I was able to explain it, but it's more like that, you know. It takes away the surprise element for me. And it just becomes boring because I'm reproducing something.
Okay.
But I know it's a really nice image. I mean, I should do something with them. But I just, I don't know. It's like, it is what it is, and it's a photograph, you know, like, and that's what it is, you know. So I can do something out of it, but then it would be something different.
Lost and Found.
Yes.
Is this after, let me see, is this after the photography?
Yes.
So is more recent work?
No, this is all from the same, this was more or less 4 years ago, I would say. And this is very related to like making, like the rust, the fragments, the accident, they're making something out of pieces and fragments. I would say if it's of the same years. So again, the decay, you know, all the different, I'm just really appealed to like the cracks, you know, of the wall. So it's just really appealing to me in many different levels. I see so much richness there and depth.
All right. So I know you're also very involved in the community and also working with the Jewish Museum and FIU with the local STEAM for the schools.
Yes.
What are we looking at here? I know you sent me this image.
So This is one of the artists I admire the most. I admire the most. He is a contemporary artist. He's Ella Natsui. He's from Africa, India, and what he does is he does this like in tapestries made out of bottle tops of aluminum, and he sewed them together with a copper wire.
Okay.
And but what inspires for me the most about him is that not only I think it's amazing to be able to transform a material that would be trash in something so beautiful with so much aesthetic and balance, but to be able to help a community the way he did. Like he provides for all these families, all his town, all the people just work with him, you know, like they select the colors, they help him assemble. So he is able to provide to a whole community throughout his work. And I think that would be my dream as an artist, to really be able, like for me, art is my voice. So the thing that I want to, that I can do best. So to be able to help the community through my art would be like my ultimate goal, I would say.
I think is this a close-up of what he did?
Yes, that was a close-up. And okay, so then after the Anatsui, I really gave up on the canvas completely. Like I really came away out of the canvas and the rigidity of the structure, you know, and I got obsessed with the ripples and folds and the movement of the fabric. And I started working with the fabrics, and I like them to just hang them free, you know? And so these again are different kind of fabrics of different countries, maybe mainly India and Mexico, sewn together, and then I intervene them with paint in order for it to be able to read like as a whole, as something that has unity, and that probably from closer, from the distance, probably you would think it's just one piece. And when you get closer is when you can really realize it's very many different things united.
Is this a recent work?
That's recent. That was selected for an international competition, and then it was exposed in Rome. This was last year, October of last year. Yes. That's and so I have like a lot of pieces that I did with fabric, very heavy pieces because of the materials. They become really heavy, but I really like the way they hang free. So it was like a really transition for me from the square canvas to really let the work hang like this.
It's unbelievable. I want to see if we have any questions before. I know we're almost out of time here, but let me do a quick stop share. Do we have any questions? Anybody in the audience? Let's see. We have chat. Okay. Let's see what's in the chat. So the first person, Luna, says, wow, I didn't know you spoke Yiddish. Such a beautiful image. That's pretty cool. And I'm not sure, Nancy, how big are these works? Which works were you talking about?
The three pieces where you said they were quite large, but you really didn't know how large they were.
Like 48 by 60 inches.
So they're big.
So they're pretty big,
yes.
Right? Yeah, they obviously would be very heavy.
I'm very heavy. Yes. Yes, and I got tired of the heaviness though, and this last process. I don't know if we have time for me to just tell you that my latest work is completely opposite in the sense that it's not heavy. It's as light as paper.
They look so heavy. You're talking about the new pieces, no longer canvas?
The new pieces, the latest work. I'm doing like a lot of paper work now.
Ah, I see. Okay.
And I love the fragility and the ephemerality of it, you know. So yes, I got a little bit tired of the heaviness. Yes, I'm ready for something light.
So right now you're working with paper?
I'm working with paper. Yes, I'm doing my own paper, but in the process I intervene it with I incorporate pieces of fabric and of my old paints to the paper making in the process. And then I intervene it with paint. But I'm really, it's like, it has been like an important transition for me that actually happened since COVID. Going from these big, large, heavy pieces to these small, super small work as the size of a piece of paper, it has been quite a transition for me, and I'm really happy.
I also have a question, because I know that you're exhibiting work currently, and many people might want to see your work in person because it definitely has a different effect. So can you share a little bit more about this show that you're participating in at the camp?
Yes, so this show, it's 40 women pulling thread on disclosure. It's like about it's like the vote. The 19th Amendment, we're celebrating this year, 100 years of the right of the woman to vote. So they did this organization, which has like a few months, which I think it's amazing. It's called FAMA, F-A-M-A. It's Fiber Artists Miami Association, where they are gathering all fiber artists from Miami. And we are 40 women participating, and we all did a flag representing the woman's vote. So that is in Camp Gallery, which is located like in Little Haiti. I can probably share the address. So I have one piece there, and I'm working toward a solo exhibition also, but the place is still to be defined. So if people are interested, maybe they can leave me their email and I will let them know.
Do you have a website?
Yeah, Karla, share your website.
Yes.
That way we can be up to date on what you're doing. You see the chat, you can put it in a chat.
My Instagram is the one that I use the most.
Okay.
Like to really announce the events. So I don't know how to put the Instagram. I just would say Karla Kantorovich is the Instagram.
Oh, so Dani Tapia just put it in at Karla Kanto, or yeah, great.
Thank you, Dania.
And this way we can keep up to date with what you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yes, quite a transition here with the COVID. As I said, I really work like with a lot of what's happening in the moment. So I needed to respond to the moment, and I just always wanted to work with paper. So I learned how to do paper, and it really reminds me of the fragility of our humanity, of our existence, no? Like how from one moment to other, everything can change. Yeah. So that fragility and the idea of the materials when they are getting into, when they're approaching into nothingness is also really very appealing to me. And the details, the intimate, like now what we're really faced with what is closer to us, our immediate family, our four walls. And so that's why it became super small and very intimate, because that's what I feel I need to do now, it's like healing from the inside out, to really work with what is immediate.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Karla, I think we are just about out of time. I did want to thank Dan and Merle Weiss for sponsoring this series, Thursdays at 3. And, Karla, it's been a real pleasure having you on today.
Thank you.
Yeah, the last quick question I have, is there any medium that you have not worked with yet that you're interested in, that we might see anytime soon on your Instagram?
Now I'm stuck in paper, so I really don't know what's gonna come next, but I think it's gonna be paper for a while. Yes.
Cool. All right. Yes. All right. So we're on your Instagram. I'm a fan, and I will be sure to keep looking.
Thank you.
Jackie,
Thank you so much.
a couple things. First of all, I say it every time, if you're not a member of the Jewish Museum of Florida, we encourage
You're missing.
someone. It's important that we continue these programs, and we really value your membership. Again, thank you to Daniel and Meryl Weiss for sponsoring the series. We're thrilled. And Jackie, when is the next one?
We're looking at October 29.
And who will be speaking?
Typo.
Could you expound that a little bit, who Typo is?
I can put it in the
Okay.
chat. I'll
Okay.
do that right now. Let's see. How do I do that?
He's besides being a graffiti artist, he's mainly a well-known graffiti artist.
Does work with Adidas, with a couple of other big companies, and I'm going to write it down right now.
I'm gonna sneak them right in.
So again, thank you for joining us for Thursdays at 3, and we hope you'll enjoy our other events that are coming up. We have a program this week
COE.
that Luna is doing along with Zoe at the Wolfsonian, and the education manager at the Frost Art Museum is called 3x3x3. So if you have kids or kids and you want to participate in that, it's going to be fun at 1 o'clock. And then Monday we have our first Black Lives in a Jewish Context series, and we have a from his name is Nathan DeVere. So please, you probably get our emails, so we're glad you're participating. And anything else anybody wants to add?
Quick, anybody?
We really loved it. It was
Thank you,
terrific.
Meryl. Thank you, Meryl. And we
Thank
love
you very
Barbara.
much. I love to have you, and thanks for joining. And yes, I'll be in touch with any of my stuff. I'll let you know.
And we love Karla. She sort of came to us a couple years ago, and we embraced her right away. And she's been a teaching artist with us with our STEAM program the last 2 years, and we hope that that'll continue. So we love your artwork. This is a wonderful presentation, and we're grateful to everybody for participating today. We had a great turnout. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very
Carla.
much.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Carla.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Au revoir.